The doorbell camera captured every second. There I was, mid-cannonball into my own saltwater pool, on a blistering Saturday afternoon, when two police cruisers rolled up in front of my driveway. I surfaced from the cool, crystal-clear water, blinking chlorine out of my eyes, only to see two uniformed officers and one extremely self-satisfied woman in a blinding green pantsuit standing beside my freshly trimmed hedges. She jabbed a finger at me, a finger weighed down with at least 3 gaudy rings. And her voice was so piercing that my neighbor's dog immediately started barking. "There he is, officers. It's a trespasser. He's been using this pool illegally for weeks. I demand you arrest him immediately for unauthorized aquatic activity." In violation of HOA Code 7.3.5, I stood there in nothing but swimming trunks, holding a foam pool noodle. Like a confused gladiator, water streaming from my graying hair. The officers looked at each other, then at me, then back at the woman who was now flapping around a laminated binder like it was evidence from a crime scene. "Ma'am," the taller officer said carefully, "are you claiming this man broke into this house to use the pool?" "Exactly," shrieked. "He's a squatter, a pool pirate, a chlorinated criminal." I cleared my throat. "Officers, my name is Arthur Hayes. I own this house. I bought it 6 months ago." I repeated it. Because clearly no one was listening. My name is Arthur Hayes, and I'm a retired aerospace engineer. I spent 35 years designing navigation systems for commercial aircraft. After my retirement party, yes, there was a cake shaped like a bowing 747, decided to leave the chaos of downtown behind and settle in what I thought would be the peaceful suburb of Maplewood Estates. The neighborhood seemed perfect. Mature oak trees, well-kept sidewalks, and most importantly, houses spaced far enough apart that I wouldn't be forced into daily small talk over a fence line. The property on Elmwood Court was everything I wanted: 4 bedrooms, a 2-car garage, and a beautiful kidney-shaped saltwater pool the previous owners had installed just 2 years earlier. My realtor had mentioned there was an HOA, but I'd dealt with homeowners associations before. Pay the dues, mow the lawn, don't paint your house neon purple, simple rules. What she didn't mention was that the Maplewood Estates HOA was ruled by a woman named Brenda Higgins, a 50-something Dvoraki who treated the neighborhood like her personal empire. I eventually learned from my next-door neighbor, a kind, elderly man named William, that Brenda had once been a mid-level manager at a vitamin supplement company before her husband ran off with his CrossFit instructor. Now, all that leftover corporate rage was poured into obsessively measuring grass height with the ruler and issuing citations to anyone whose mailbox color was half a shade off the approved palette. My first encounter with Brenda came about 2 weeks after I moved in. I was setting up a new pool umbrella, a nice navy blue one that matched my patio furniture, when I heard the sharp, unmistakable click-click-clack of high heels on concrete. "Excuse me," the voice could have sliced through steel. "Excuse me, sir." I turned to find a woman with aggressively styled platinum blonde hair, wearing a blazer with shoulder pads straight out of the 1980s. She clutched a clipboard like it was the nuclear launch codes. "Can I help you?" I asked, setting down my wrench. "I'm Brenda Higgins, president of the Maplewood Estates HOA," she declared, as if I should bow in reverence. "I don't recall receiving your architectural modification request for that umbrella." I blinked. It's just an umbrella for shade. All exterior modifications require board approval," she insisted, scribbling something on her clipboard. "Temporary shade structures included. I'll need you to submit form for 7B, in triplicate, for an umbrella." I couldn't hide my disbelief. "Rules are rules, Mr. Kensington, Arthur Hayes. I just bought this house." Her eyes narrowed. "I don't remember approving any new residents. I wasn't aware I needed your authorization to purchase property," I replied, fighting to keep my tone neutral. She wrote even more notes. "I'll need to see your closing documents, proof of income, and 3 character references. I'm not applying for a job." I live here already, I said, my patience thinning. We'll see about that, she said darkly, before click-clacking away. That was only the beginning for the next several weeks. Brenda's surveillance ramped up to unsettling levels. I spotted her pretending to power walk past my house 4 or 5 times every morning, each time slowing down to peer over my fence. She left notes on my door about everything from the angle of my garden hose to the aggressive font of my house numbers. Then came the newsletter incident. The Maplewood Estates HOA published a monthly newsletter, normally filled with thrilling updates about recycling bin placement and reminders about the annual potluck. But the July edition included a new feature, a neighborhood watch alert, and my address was listed. Residents are advised that an unverified individual has been observed at 42 Elmwood Court. While no criminal activity has been confirmed, neighbors should remain vigilant and report any suspicious behavior. My neighbor William showed it to me over the fence, shaking his head. "That woman's lost her mind," he said. "You've been nothing but quiet and respectful since you moved in." I decided to handle things professionally after that. I sent Brenda a polite email with copies of my deed, explaining that I was the legal owner of the property and had full rights to use my own pool. Her response: she marked my message as spam and had my email address blocked from the HOA mailing list entirely. The sticky notes appeared. The very next day, neon pink squares were plastered across my front door like some kind of passive-aggressive wallpaper. Proof of residency is required immediately. Pool usage suspended pending HOA verification. Umbrellas in non-approved colors will be confiscated. This is not a commune, Arthur. That last one made me laugh out loud. I'd lived alone since my divorce 15 years ago and valued my privacy more than just about anything. The idea that I was running some sort of hippie collective was beyond absurd. The situation boiled over when I decided to host a small birthday party for my 8-year-old niece, Lily. My sister lived 2 hours away, and they'd driven down specifically because Lily wanted to swim in Uncle Arthur's cool pool. I'd invited maybe 12 people total. My sister, her husband, Lily, and a handful of her school friends with their parents. It was a beautiful Saturday afternoon. We had unicorn pool floats, a bubble machine, and a cake shaped like a mermaid. The kids were shrieking with joy as they played Marco Polo. The adults relaxed beneath my supposedly illegal umbrella, sipping lemonade and discussing normal suburban topics like mortgage rates and the quality of the local schools. Of course, Brenda was watching. She'd installed what she called security cameras around her property, but most of them suspiciously pointed into her neighbors' yards instead of her own. Through the sliding glass door, I could see her in her kitchen window binoculars in one hand and her phone in the other. Later, at the HOA meeting, I would hear the exact 911 recording she made that day. 911. What's your emergency? Yes, this is Brenda Higgins, president of the Homeowners Association, she said in her most self-important tone. I need to report a strange man who has broken into a house on my street and is using the pool without authorization. He appears to be luring children with pool toys and baked goods. I'm concerned for their safety. Ma'am, is he threatening the children? He's giving them cupcakes, Brenda insisted, as if this were clear evidence of criminal behavior. Store-bought cupcakes with artificial food coloring, and there are unauthorized inflatables in the pool. Is he the homeowner? Absolutely not. Brenda lied without hesitation. I know every homeowner in this neighborhood, and this man is a stranger. He's probably a squatter or one of those sovereign citizen types. Please hurry. 20 minutes later, just as I was helping Lily blow out her candles, 2 police cars pulled up. The music stopped. The kids fell silent. Every adult at the party turned to stare as the officers entered through my side gate. We got a call about a possible trespasser, the lead officer said, looking almost apologetic. Are you the homeowner, sir? Yes, officer. Arthur Hayes. I set down the cake knife and pulled out my wallet. Would you like to see my ID? That was when Brenda appeared, materializing like a demon in a lime pantsuit, power walking in wedge heels. "Officers, thank goodness you're here. This man has been squatting in this house for months. He's not on any of our approved resident lists." The officer looked at her, then at me, then at the very obvious birthday party happening behind me. "Sir, can you prove you own this property?" "Of course," I said calmly. I walked inside and returned with a folder. I'd begun keeping by the door specifically for Brenda-related emergencies. "Here's my driver's license with this address, the deed to the house, my property tax statement, and, for fun, a laminated copy of my mortgage satisfaction letter showing I own this place free and clear." The officers reviewed the documents while Brenda sputtered behind them. "Those could be forged. Check your databases. Run his prints." "Ma'am," the younger officer said, "filing a false police report is a crime. It's not false." Brenda's voice jumped an octave. "He doesn't attend HOA meetings. He hasn't paid his landscaping assessment. His pool umbrella is non-compliant." The lead officer handed my documents back. "I'm very sorry for the disturbance, Mr. Hayes. Enjoy your party. Would you like some cake?" I offered. "We have plenty." They politely declined, though I caught the younger one, struggling not to smile. As they headed back to their vehicles, I heard one mutter, "Can't believe we got called out because Brenda thinks the guy with the grill doesn't own the grill." Brenda stood there, her face shifting through shades of red and purple. "This isn't over," she hissed. "I know my rights as a homeowner," I replied evenly. "And now, if you'll excuse me, I have a birthday party to host on my property, in my pool." She stomped off. And I foolishly thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. The police report classified the incident as a false report of trespassing, and I made sure to get a copy. My sister, who happened to be a paralegal, urged me to file a formal complaint. "People like her don't stop until they face consequences," she warned. So I did some research and discovered our city had an HOA oversight committee, a board responsible for handling disputes between homeowners and their associations. I also learned something interesting. HOA board members were required to complete annual compliance training to keep their positions. When I requested the records, I discovered Brenda had skipped that training for the last 3 years. I filed my complaint on a Monday. By Wednesday, the entire neighborhood was buzzing. Brenda had apparently received a certified letter informing her that an emergency board meeting would be held to address serious allegations of harassment and misuse of authority. The meeting was scheduled for the following Tuesday at the community center. I arrived 15 minutes early, wearing my best Hawaiian shirt and flip-flops. A deliberate wardrobe choice meant to contrast with the seriousness of the complaints being discussed. The room was packed. Clearly, I was not the only resident who'd clashed with Brenda. She sat stiffly at the board table, wearing what looked like a power suit from a discount outlet, furiously hammering at her phone keyboard. The other board members looked uneasy, especially as residents filtered and holding folders full of documentation. "Let's call this meeting to order," said David Clark, the board treasurer. "We're here to address formal complaint number 23-7, filed by Arthur Hayes against board president Brenda Higgins." I was invited to speak first. I kept it simple and factual, laying out the timeline of events, the false police report, and the escalating pattern of harassment. I displayed the sticky notes, referenced the newsletter alert, and played the recording of the 911 call, courtesy of a public records request my brother-in-law had helped me file. When it was Brenda's turn to respond, she launched into a frantic tirade about property values and the importance of vigilance. "We can't just let anyone use amenities without proper vetting," she snapped. "For all we know, he could be running an illegal Airbnb." "Alive alone," replied dryly. "Unless you count my goldfish," William rose from the audience. "I'd like to speak," he said. "Arthur's been nothing but a good neighbor." Meanwhile, Brenda's been measuring my rose bushes with a yardstick at 6 o'clock in the morning. More hands shot up. "Sarah, from 2 streets over." complained that Brenda had cited her for having too many garden gnomes. The Andersons described being fined because their daughters' chalk drawings weren't considered aesthetically compliant. Even soft-spoken Mrs. Patel explained that Brenda had demanded she submit a cultural variance form just to hang Diwali lights. The board members exchanged uneasy glances. David cleared his throat. "Brenda, we also need to address your missed compliance training." "I've been busy protecting this neighborhood," Brenda snapped. "The training is mandatory," David continued. "You've missed 3 years' worth, according to the bylaws. That's grounds for immediate removal." Brenda's face drained of color. "You can't be serious." "We need to vote," another board member said. "All in favor of suspending Brenda Higgins from her position as HOA president pending completion of required training and a formal conduct review." 5 hands went up. Only Brenda stayed down. "Motion passes," David announced. "Brenda, you are hereby removed from your duties as president, effective immediately. Please turn in your keys to the community center and any HOA property." In your possession, the room erupted in quiet applause. Brenda sat frozen, her mouth opening and closing, much like my goldfish. "Furthermore," David said, "Mr. Hayes, the board would like to formally apologize for the harassment you've endured. We would also like to offer you the position of interim HOA liaison while we search for a new president." I stood, adjusting my Hawaiian shirt. "I appreciate the offer, but I respectfully decline. I moved here for peace, not politics. I just want to use my pool without being accused of criminal trespassing." Laughter rippled through the audience. Brenda finally found her voice. "This is a coup. I'll sue all of you. My cousin is a lawyer. Your cousin sells insurance." Someone called from the back, prompting another round of laughter. As the meeting wrapped up, Brenda was escorted out, still clutching her clipboard and muttering about maintaining property values. I stayed behind to shake hands with the board members and chat with neighbors I'd never really gotten to know, thanks to spending most of my time dodging Brenda's surveillance attempts. The next day, I treated myself to a new, pool-floated giant inflatable pizza slice that was definitely not HOA approved. As I drifted around the pool and noticed how strangely peaceful Brenda's house looked, no binoculars in the window, no frantic power walking, no sticky notes, just silence. I did, however, add a small sign to my pool gate. Nothing dramatic, just a simple wooden plaque that read, "Yes, I live here. Yes, this is my pool. No, Brenda. You may not borrow the floaties." Word around the neighborhood was that Brenda attempted to start her own alternative HOA through a Facebook group. But it only had 7 members, and we were all pretty sure at least 5 of those accounts were fake. She still posted occasional rants about unauthorized pool usage and the decline of community standards. But no one paid attention anymore. As for the fallout from the false police report, the district attorney's office issued her a formal warning and fined her $800 for misuse of emergency services. When the process server delivered the paperwork, she allegedly shrieked so loudly that 3 different neighbors called the non-emergency line to report a noise disturbance. A fitting reaction, really? If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe to HOA Conflicts for more.